Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's Young and Dynamic. I'm so super excited to welcome our Dynamites, our HLF Delta staff, and also our executives connected anywhere and also are everywhere around the globe. My name is Tinashe Musharu, and I'll be your host. Allow me to remind you of our housekeeping rules, and remember to take a notebook and a pen or a tablet to write your notes. I do have mine close by. And also allow me to remind you to ensure that your gadget is mute all the times, unless if you are also asked to do so by the facilitator. So I'll be the one calling you. And also, in case you are leaving the meeting briefly, kindly switch off your camera, and we do not want to see you leaving. And also, the chat box is at the bottom of your screen, so it is available to use. We'll take note of all the comments and also all the questions, and we'll take the relevant actions. So direct all your questions that you have to the chat box, and I do have a team that is going throughout the chat box to make sure that all the questions have been answered and that action has been taken. So last sessions were one of all the amazing sessions. So before we deep dive to today's session, allow us to give an opportunity to Tulo, straight from Lesotho, to lead us in prayer. Over to you, Tulo.
Thank you, Mr. Musharu. Please let us all close our eyes and pray. Heavenly Father, we give you praise. We thank you this afternoon. We thank you for each and every Dynamite connected on this platform, whether it be from Lesotho, from Burundi, or from Zimbabwe, anywhere around the globe. We thank you for Mr. Andrew Hadley, who has been with us consistently, giving us nuggets for the betterment of our lives. Please fill us with wisdom and curiosity to understand and comprehend fully what is shared on this platform, and let it transform our lives for the greater good. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Tulo, for leading us in prayer. Allow me to greet a few individuals that have connected here. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much, each and every individual, for connecting. So today is a special day as we are closing down the values that change the world series. So each and every individual, kindly type your questions, kindly type your questions in the chat box, as we are looking forward to see what you have learned throughout the series. Kindly type in the chat box. I will be reading in a few seconds to see who was listening throughout the previous sessions. Kindly type in the chat box. I'm waiting. I'm giving you 1 or 2 minutes to type 1 or 2 takeaways or the key points that you have learned from the previous session. So as for me, the past 3 weeks were one of the most interesting sessions to me, because I have learned a lot of things. So allow me to share a few takeaway points that I have learned. I have learned that if I do remember that a human being judges you within 7 seconds of meeting up with them. So the judgment can be either a negative or a positive. So you need to work hard to ensure that you have a positive, judgment. And also I learned that before stepping into a room, think about what the impression that you are going to set. So before you get into the meeting, before you get into the interview, what is your impression? So this is a really big question to me again. And also I have learned that ask yourself questions. How do I think that way? For those who usually make assumptions, ask yourself, why am I making this kind of assumptions? And one of the things that I've noted is that wise people use their ears more than their mouths. So this is one of most things that I have noted. I will try to use more of my ears and less talking. So I need to listen more and reduce my talking. And also, Mr. Andrew shared that notice what you are doing, notice your action. So I was one of the person who rarely notice what I'm doing. I do the things what I want. But now, because of this series, every action, I also need to notice my actions. And I don't want to empty you, but please allow me to say the last takeaway. He said, always refine how you ask. So before you ask if question, maybe in a bus, in a supermarket, maybe a question at work, at school, I will need to refine how I ask those kind of questions. So you see, it was one of an interesting interesting session, and I hope you guys you have learned the way that I have learned the previous 3 weeks. So allow me to introduce Mr. Andrew as he is taking us throughout the session. Mr. Andrew is the director of the Center for International Learning and Leadership, an independent organization which promotes international thinking, values, and skills. Andrew has lived and worked in several countries, including China, Turkey, Greece, Macedonia, and also Ethiopia. He recently visited Zimbabwe for the first time and is excited about developing partnership projects here, a project there, and hopefully in other African countries. So, Ms. Andrew, you need also to consider Lesotho, Rwanda, Burundi, the countries that have participants here on Young Economic. And also, Mr. Andrew loves the learning languages and learning about different cultures. He believes that we all have something to learn from each other. So relationships will always be based on mutual respect and benefit. His other personal interests include music, film, and astronomy. He is married with 3 grown-up children, and he lives in London. So Ms. Andrew will teach you Shona, will teach you Swahili, and other related and languages. Over to you, Mr. Andrew.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Very nice to be with you again this afternoon. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to say spend a few minutes thinking back about what we talked about the last few weeks. I'm going to give you a couple of challenges that you can do while we are speaking, while we're talking, and then we're going to talk. We're going to look at some of the questions which you have sent in. And if you have more questions, please send them. We'll have enough time, I hope, for maybe 10 or more questions. And then at the end, I have a few more thoughts to give you. So let's begin with our session today. I hope you can all see this. Today, yes, I'm joining you from a different part of England, my family home, which is down at the bottom right down in near the sea, at the bottom of England. It's an area called Cornwall. Very beautiful place, and you can see that my home is right there right by the sea. And actually, what I'd like to do is I'm going to pick up my computer and just show you the view from my window, so that you can see a little bit of the beautiful Cornish countryside, and then I'll come back just to give you a view of my world over here from this window, which I hope you will enjoy seeing what I see from my own window outside. It's a very beautiful part of England. Many tourists come here, and it's as you see, a very nice sunny day today. I even have a bee's nest in my roof, so I have to look after these bees that are living in my house. So that's my place. I grew up here when I was a child. I lived here with my parents. So although I say I'm from London, my heart is really from this part of rural areas of England. Okay, let us just quickly recap some of the ideas that we had from the previous sessions. We looked at these concepts. Obviously, we discussed these the last 2-3 weeks, so I'm not going to talk about them in detail again, although they will come up again today, and some of these. So those were some of the key words and phrases that we mentioned before. We also, last week, we talked about the 3 C's. I hope you remember the 3 C's: creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration. And for me, the most important one is the 4th C, curiosity. We've mentioned this word many times. This is so important as you journey through life, and it is the answer, I think, to many of the questions that you have already asked, and we'll come back to this. But being curious about the world, if you want to find truth, if you want to find wisdom, if you want to understand people, if you want to understand yourself, you must be curious. If you want to be a traveler, you must be curious. We, as I say, we'll come back to that again in a moment. And it's always about people. What I mean here is that if we're talking about leadership, if we're talking about skills, if we're talking about life, we're talking about culture, history, geography, you name it, it's always about people. And whatever you do in your life, you can't operate in isolation. You have to be thinking about other people, and you have to be interacting with other people. And if you think of any problem, almost any problem that you can imagine, people are the cause of the problem, and people are the answer to the problem. I can't think of many problems that really are not to do with people in some respects. So you must focus on people, and you must respect other people, and you must think about other people, and you must think about your own reaction, your own interaction with other people. Because if you don't do that, you cannot be successful. I enjoyed the words, some of the words in the introduction. While you were waiting, there was a soundtrack, a video soundtrack playing in the background, and that was that was focusing on what you need to do, and I'm going to come to that again in a minute. And we talked about stories. People are all about stories. Your life is a story, and you don't know the end of that story. You maybe know the beginning or the first part, but there's much more rich tales to come into that story as you go along. But you must, if you're curious, you must find out about other people's stories. You must listen to stories. Names, the importance of names we spoke about, and I strongly believe this. We must think about not only our names, other people's names, but the names of things and places and peoples and groups and ideas. Everything needs a name. Even the stones around us need their own name. Because if we know the names, then we can respect and care for the things. We need to be curious. As I said, diversity is vital. Having people around you who are different from yourself. We said in the first session, friendship is not the same as similarity. And this is really important. But also in terms of professionalism and leadership, you need to be surrounded by people who know different things from you, who are different from yourself, who have different skills, who have different multiple intelligences, maybe who have a different mixture between the left and the right brain. The left side is the rather cold and logical and mathematical brain that we use so much in our world, but the right brain is the creative, the risk-taking, the daring, the imaginative brain. And that's the part of the brain that connects with the whole of the world. And we had this question was last week. Somebody talked about context and how it affects you. It is vitally important. It shapes us, our context, where we come from, our family, our education. It shapes us, but it is only a starting point. It's only when we become travelers, and as I call it, time travelers, because when you go away, you move on, and the place where you left stays behind. And when you come back, you have traveled in time as well as space, and the people that you come back to have not traveled in time. They're still the same. So only by becoming time travelers can we find out who we truly are. And remember the poem I had in the first week. Suddenly this paving stone midway between my front door and the bus stop is a starting point. From here I can go anywhere I choose. And you can. And a few of the quotes that we looked at before. Nothing exists until it has a name. And on the other hand, if something hasn't got a name, it becomes invisible. And imagine that you're sitting in a class in school and the teacher doesn't know your name and the other students don't know your name. Who are you? You are nobody. They don't see you. They don't know you. They don't care about you. But when they know your name, then they see you and then they care about you. And then you also can speak. So giving things names is massively important. Creativity, the definition that I like, to look where everyone else is looking and see what no one else can see. You have to look carefully. And I'm going to give you a small challenge in a moment, which some of you may find easier than others, but it's about looking carefully. Are you going to treat a man as he is or as he might become? Let's say a person rather than a man, but are you going to treat them as they are or as they might become? And that was this quotation about education. The purpose of education is to look for the potential in people, not to judge them by what they did before, but to explore what they could do in the future. And it's better to do something than to be someone, you know. We all think, oh, I want to be the leader. I want to be the leader in that poem we had last week, but it's better to be doing something. Who cares if you are some grand person? You might still not change the world very much. You could be a very small person in a very small place, but you might do something that really matters. Again, we come back to that in a moment. We all want to be, but we don't want to become. We think we can have it overnight, but that was one of the things that in that preliminary soundtrack that we were listening to. Success requires hard work. You have to keep going. You have to know what you really want, but you can't just have it in one moment. You need to make a plan and you need to take, as it said there, and as we said a couple of weeks ago, small steps. It's the small steps that really, really matter. The journey of 1,000 miles, and it might be a journey of 1,000 miles that you're taking in your life, begins with a single step. That's that paving stone between your door and the world, the starting point. You can go anywhere you want, but that first step really matters. And the final one that we mentioned last week, tomorrow is the most important day. What you do tomorrow, don't put it off. You have to start. You have to start by the smallest thing, and it begins tomorrow. We looked at a picture of the of a famous Kenyan athlete, and she, Olympic gold medal winner. She didn't wait until the Olympics and then hope that she could win. She worked. She started tomorrow, and she worked for years to reach the point where she could win the medal. Last week, I gave you this challenge. I asked you to divide the square into 4 exactly equal pieces. That was the first way of doing it. And that was the second way of doing it, 4 exactly equal pieces. I wonder how many of you managed to find other ways of doing it. And I wonder how many of you have the answer to my question. How many ways are there to divide the square into exactly equal pieces? Here's one more way. 4 pieces, they're exactly the same. How many ways are there? Does anybody have the answer? Let's see. Yeah, very good. So Tatenda is the first one there who says unlimited. Unlimited. And that's absolutely right. There are unlimited ways And if we look at this, you see why there are unlimited ways. If you just put a circle on the top, a circle, you can move it around as many ways as you want. There are literally infinite ways to divide the square into exactly equal pieces. Okay, this is the first challenge I'm giving you today, and this is for something for you to do while we're talking, while we're discussing for the next hour. This is a game. I'm sure you all played this game when you were children. I used to play it with my children if we went on a long journey, but I still play it actually sometimes because I find it very good fun. It's the A to Z game, and it might be something like, name an animal that begins with each letter of the alphabet. So what animal begins with A? Let's choose antelope. B, okay, a bear. C, a cat, and so on. So one animal for each letter. Now, it's not just a fun thing to do with children, because you can choose any category and you can challenge yourself. But one of the reason why I use it sometimes is that if I can't get to sleep, I'm really lying in bed and I can't sleep and sleep will not come, I play this game. I choose a category and I start to do this. And it's very relaxing and it helps you to sleep and to relax. But it's also an interesting thing to do. So what I'd like you to do this afternoon, if you have a pen and paper, just in the next hour while we're talking, this is your A to Z of leadership. All the things you need to be a successful leader or an agent of change. So one thing for each letter, and you might choose some of the things that we already talked about, or you might have something of your own that you want to write down. But one thing, one or two, if you like, for each letter. The only, of course, the difficult letter is in English is X. So for X, we will accept any word which has an X in it. That's challenge number one. Second challenge, which you can do while we're talking, is a different kind of challenge. Sorry, that's going to be your A to Z. So there will be, you'll write all your words, one word for each letter. Here's the next challenge. And this is a really different kind of one. Some of you may know this one. I'm sure some of you will know it. But if you don't know it, it'll be fun for you. What you have to do here is to join all the dots with 4 continuous straight lines. There must be straight lines and they must be continuous lines. So you can start wherever you want. For example, we might start here. And that might be your first line. It's a straight line, so it's okay. But you can't go back. That's not allowed. You can't pick up your pen and start in a new place. That's not allowed. They must be continuous. So you keep going. So 4 continuous straight lines to join up 9 dots. And we'll see at the end of the hour who managed to solve that problem. Okay, so it's going to be question time now, and we're going to have a more free discussion with the team. And we've got a few questions that were already sent in. Here are some very interesting questions. Number 1, we actually looked at last week about motivating other people when I feel demotivated. But these are really good questions, all of them. And what's going to happen is that our MC is going to read the questions one by one. We'll have a discussion of one question, and then we will move on to the next one. So I will stop sharing so that you can see who's talking.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for the opportunity to read the questions. So the first question is, how can one be able to identify one's true character without being confused by people's opinions or what people think they know about an individual.
Mm. It's a very interesting one. How confused do you get about other people, with other people's opinion, or what do other people think? What do you think, Tinashe? What do you think about that question? What do you have an answer to that kind of question, or maybe any of the others? Before I give my opinion.
Okay, so at first, I believe that what other people think about me can influence how I do certain actions. So if people think that I'm a nice person, even the rudeness inside me, I'll try to hide, because I know that people think that I'm a nice person. So I might force myself to be a nice person when actually I don't want to be a nice person. That's what I think.
That's a great answer. I don't know, Pastor Munashe, whether you would like to say something on this one.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Andrew. And it's been a wonderful time, learning from you in these past 3 weeks. Well, first and foremost, if people's opinions about you get you confused about who you are, then you really do not know who you are. So it goes back to self-awareness. Do you really know who you are? Are you really sure of who you are? Because people's opinions shouldn't make you question your own character. So you need to go back to the roots, I think, and look at the foundation. If you really are, you just might be fake news. You might just be pretending. You might not just be the original, because a Gucci, a lion. Okay, let me use the typical example of a lion. A lion is not going to be moved about by the opinion of a cat, because the lion knows I'm a lion. It is what it is. So if you then find yourself asking yourself, am I really a lion? Because the cat is saying you're not really a lion, then you just might not be a real lion. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's a great answer. That's a really, really, really nice one. Miss O, do you have anything to say about it?
Okay, thank you so much for having me on the panel. Thank you, Andrew, for the sessions. I am here representing all the ladies. As you can see, it's a panel of men, but I'm here for the ladies. So what I would say is who you are in private when nobody's watching is exactly who you are. That's the real you. Because like Pastor Munashe, like Tinashe said, you're easily swayed by other people, but who you are when nobody's watching. If you're that kind of person who goes to a restaurant and there's no one who knows you there, you shout at the waitresses, the people who are serving you, that's who you really are. So when nobody's watching you, when there's nobody to correct your behavior, that's really who you are. I think that's my answer to that question. Thank you.
Yeah, that's also a great one. I want to build on all of those answers, because my answer's the same and only a little bit different. Because knowing who you truly are and identifying your true character, which was mentioned in the question, and the confusion that you may get from other people's reactions to you or the way that other people behave. I would say the confusion is natural. I think we all get confused all the time in all of our lives. But I think this process of identifying your true character and finding out who you truly are is something that goes on all of your life. So I'm over 60 years old now, and I'm still doing it. I'm still looking for who I truly am. It's still piecing together the jigsaw. And to paraphrase or to adapt what the ancient playwright Sophocles said, he said, count no one happy until they are dead. Now, some people say, oh, well, what does he mean? He means people are happy when they're dead? No, that's not what he meant. What he meant was you can't describe whether somebody was happy until you can see their whole life, the full life from beginning to end. And it's the same thing. You can't really know who you truly are, and almost until the end. Of course, you get closer to it, and of course, you adapt. But the point is, it's something you have to keep working on the whole of your life. I wanted to mention just in passing, I noticed in the chat, and it's relevant to that question, a very nice comment from Tulo. Thank you, Tulo, who said that we should have a fifth C, not only 3 C's or 4 C's. Fifth C, Tulo says, commitment. And this is a really good point, because actually it relates to this whole thing about finding who you are and so on. You need that commitment throughout the whole of your journey, and that is a really strong word. Thank you for that comment. So maybe we go to Tinashe, the next question.
The next question, yeah. Before we go maybe to the next question, we can take a question from Nyarai or an addition here. So if the host can allow Nyarai to just unmute, so that we don't wait until the end if she has a question now. So Nyarai, kindly go and talk to us.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to say something. I just want to add on, on what other people think of me. How does it affect me? So we should take that into consideration, because just like what Mr. Andrew Hadley had said, that we are surrounded by people, so we should consider other people before we make any decisions, because at the end of the day, we also need help from other people, so we should treat other people very well. But I also want to say that we should not be demotivated because people think of us in another way, because people are always people. Even if you try to do what is good or what is right, even when you turn your back from them, they'll always say something, because they are people. So we should not be demotivated by other people say, because people are always people. But we should examine ourselves, our actions, that are we really doing the right thing, and to try by all means to do the right thing. Because each and every time I say something, I just want to add the word of God. Like when Apostle Paul said, you say that we should try to do what is right, both in the eyes of God and also in the eyes of men, because it has an impact. But we should not be demotivated by other people say, because some people, they always look for your flaws, for your mistakes, but we should not be demotivated by that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Very
Thank
good.
you so much.
Very good comment. Very, very good comment. Yeah, there will always be people who might criticize or who might, demotivate us. So you're quite right. But reach out to them and try to bring them with you.
Okay. Thank you. There are some contributions that are also coming through the chat box, and Mudawafa from USAID says, very true, nobody really gets to fully know who they are. It's an ongoing process. And also Takunda from Malali Police said, first, define who you are before people impose what they think you are. So when they see you, you are bold on your actions. And lastly, David Isaac said, this is so true. Once upon a lifetime, Noah was loved for building an ark with no signs of a flood. So knowing who you are, I think, is one of the really important aspects of our lives. So I'm moving forward to the next question. It says, I struggle to connect with people. How best can I connect with them?
Shall I start this one? I think it's interesting. There might be a number of reasons why you might struggle with connecting with people. It may be because I don't know that the person who asked the question, I don't know what the reason was that they asked this question exactly, but it may be because you feel shy, or maybe you have difficulty in relating to other people, or maybe you feel you're not a good communicator, and that it's difficult to break through. And so my simple answer to this one is what we already mentioned. Actually, Tinashe, what you mentioned in the introduction is about listening, because actually the best way to connect with other people is to listen to them. Not, again, it's the ears, not the mouth. To listen to another person. When you listen to them, then they see that you're interested in them, and then they will want to connect with you, and then they will encourage you to talk, and they will want to listen to you. And that could be listening with your ears, but also observing with your eyes, or just listening in different ways, just sensing what's going on. So being open to other people with your heart and as well as your mind, let's say. So for me, that's the simple answer is listening. And then through that listening, you will identify something that you share with that person. You will identify where they come from. Oh, you come from the same village as me. That's amazing. And then we have something. Or you love this kind of food, the same that I love, or this music, or whatever it might be. You find the more you listen, the more you'll find something to connect you. And that's the seed of friendship. It's the seed of cooperation. It's the seed of collaboration. And it's the seed of working together for change, for positive change. So I think that's my answer, is to listen.
I will also, I think my answer is, connection is part of what it means to be human. Like, we can't do well in life if we don't have fulfilling connections with other people. So my one thing that I would say, if you want to connect with people, be yourself, be your authentic self. People will see you for who you are, and not everybody might like you, but you definitely be able to make connections. So always be who you are. Don't be a different person in different situations. Be an authentic person at all times and in all situations. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor Menashe, you have something?
Yes, I'll always take the highway, like I always do when you're talking about these issues. Most of the young people, okay, not most, but a considerable number of young people that I've come across who are facing the same challenge. I'm trying to avoid to use this word. They don't want to do the hard work. Let me not use the word that I wanted to use. They don't want to do the hard work. Relationships is hard work. To maintain friendship is hard work, especially if you're starting. Because you have to come up with a plan, you have to come up with a program, you have to leave home, get into a combi or drive your car to their house, which is an unfamiliar, place. And you have to, there is a lot of work that needs to be done in friendships. And a lot of young people don't want to do the work. They want to be handed everything on a silver platter. So first and foremost, check yourself. Are you just lazy, the word that I didn't want to use, in building relationships? Are you just lazy, or you truly are struggling to connect with people? Or you truly are. I'm dealing with one case right now in my house. This young man is just lazy to connect with other people. And when he meets other people, he wants to have his way all the time. Now that puts everyone off. So this week he was involved in a fight because he's now at this particular school where people are not giving him everything at a silver platter. He now has to work for everything. Now his response to it, let's fight it out. All right. So I said I'm going to take the highway now. I will do so. So where do you really stand? Go and do some introspection. Are you just lazy to do the hard work, or you really are struggling? Now, if you really are struggling, I like the responses that Andrew and Miss Otile have given us. And the third thing that I will add there, which Andrew has already mentioned, is Find areas of interest. What are you interested in? Start from there. Is it sport? Which sport is it? Right? Then go into those spaces. If it is soccer, go to where those who play soccer are. You might find that once you have a common ground, striking a conversation can be easier because it's something that you're already interested in. And then those conversations can spiral into any other areas of your life, but start with your comfort zone. And remember what Andrew said, it's important to then listen when you're in those spaces. It's important to then give space to other people while you are in those spaces so that they get to pour into you as you pour into them as well.
Thank you so much, Pastor Mnashe. You know, Mr. Andrew is in agreement with Alvin Makuaza. He said to connect with people, start by showing genuine interest with them and actively listening to what they have to say. Find common ground and engage in conversation that are meaningful and authentic. Also, participating in social activities or joining groups aligned with your interests can also help to create more connections. And you see, Joshua also said, Joshua Bushe from Mashukopolis said, respect other people's boundaries. I see, you know, we have, Mr. Andrew, we have those people who don't want their boundaries to, you know, to be tampered with. And sometimes we provoke or we break the boundaries unknowingly. How best can we, you know, as a follow-up person, how best can we make sure, or how best can we avoid breaking people's boundaries that will affect our relationships with them?
This is a really interesting conversation, this one, and you know, this couple of comments I'm seeing in the chat here, and Bessie is saying, I find it so difficult connecting with people. In most cases, my personality doesn't connect with others, and I got used to being alone. This is fine. I mean, not everybody is an extrovert person. We need the introverted people as well as we need the extroverted people, and maybe it's not connecting with people doesn't mean you have to connect with everybody or a large number of people.
Yeah.
In fact, you know, my own son he's more of an introverted person, and he has a small number of friends, very small number of good friends, and that works for him, and it's great. And you might be connected with something else to begin with. Maybe you're connected more with nature, or more with music, or more with art, for example, and you connect with the thing that you love, that you're passionate about, and through that you will connect with other people. So there are media through which you can connect, not always directly person to person, but through the medium of art or of something of the natural world or other things.
Okay, thank you so much, Andrew. So as I move ahead, I have noted that, you know, most of the people in the chat box, they are also in agreement with you, especially Malcolm said, just don't overthink when connecting with people. That's my view. Just let things flow, because you cannot connect with everyone. So we are in agreement with what you have said. Allow me to move ahead again in the ask.
Sorry, Tinashe, I would really love to hear what Laura has to say. Sorry, she had her hand up earlier. So,
okay, I missed.
Yes.
Over to you, Laura.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just wanted to add and say that when it comes to connecting with people, we have to mind our attitude. Sometimes it's things we do that push people away from us, how we interact with others. Maybe you laugh too loud, or you don't respect personal space, and this pushes people away from you. Or rather, in another aspect, when people are talking to you, you look down or you roll your eyes. So we have to go back into retrospect and see, in previous relationships, what caused me not to connect with these people? And from that, we have to learn from our own experiences so that you can be able to establish how then to move forward, because we have to respect that people are introverted, ambiverted, and extroverted. So if you just use your past experiences and you check your attitude, you'll be able to build meaningful relationships. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lola, for that kind of contribution. I also in agreement with what you have shared. Allow me also to maybe to read the last comment as I'm moving ahead to the next question from Punashe said, when you are choosing people, let's choose quality over quantity. Choose people that will bring change, a positive one in your life. Thank you so much, Punashe, for your contribution. As I'm moving ahead with my questions, allow me to go to another question. It says, when basically can I separate myself from when my name is giving me bad energy? I think the question was trying, how best can I separate myself, or when can I separate myself from my name when it is giving me a bad energy?
Maybe to put this question in context, Andrew, I don't know if you managed to get this question because I think it wasn't properly phrased. In the African culture, usually our parents give us names, or they name us based on an experience or situation that they were going through at that particular time. Or maybe they want to pass a message to the next person. So they name their child Tichawana. You know, Tichawana meaning we will see, and not in a very nice way, but it's not always the case. Or maybe they were going through a very difficult time at that particular moment, and then they will say, my child's name is Namu, which means poverty in this case. So there are situations where people have names that are not particularly positive. So being called the same name over and over again in your life might then end up affecting you. Yeah, some of the names right now, they are writing them in the chat box. Please write some of the names that you know that people don't really like or that have a negative vibe. Muchaneta means you're going to be tired, literal translation. Tambudzai, it means you will suffer. Itai, in some instances, it actually means do whatever you will, we don't care anymore. And our own president's name, Dambudzo, which means trouble. This one, it just might be true, I don't know. Then there is Shubikai. We are suffering. Taipane. What were we going to give? What could we give? I think something like that. Netai, trouble us. There are different names that that do come through. So I think this is where it is coming from. More of a story in the Bible where someone had to wrestle with the angel, change my name, and then they were changed his name to Israel. So this is where it's coming from.
That is a really, really interesting. Thank you for that, Pastor Menashe. That's such an interesting cultural information for me personally. I never knew that before. But what an interesting conversation this gives us, because that your name, it belongs to you, it's associated with you, it has something, it has its meaning, and it influences your identity for sure, and it will influence the way that people think about you. But it's a powerful thing. And what you touched on just then was this idea of changing the name, And I don't know the Bible like you know it, but stories like Saul, who became Paul after the road to Damascus, and this kind of thing. This significance of changing the name from who you were to who you will be. Really, really interesting. Interesting concept. Some people choose their own names. Some people have nicknames that they prefer to use than their original name. But the only thing I would say is that you know, I used to wish I had a different name. I used to think, why did my brother get called? He got called John, and I got called Andrew, and I liked his name better. And that was when I was small, you know. But in the end, I came to like it. But the important thing is, your name is only a part of you. There's more. There's much more. And again, it's probably your actions which will speak for you more than your name will speak.
Yeah.
I guess that's my simple answer.
Yeah, I think it goes to the bigger picture, to the bigger conversation of what is your brand. And in most cases in our communities, your brand is associated with what you do, like what Andrew has mentioned, you know, and our communities are very good with that. So you actually can be called Namo, but if you're always the guy who's coming tops in class, people will be soon saying, where we could go now, where? Meaning that one was always scoring A's. People will soon start saying that, and people will not pay attention to your name. So I think what Andrew has mentioned is the way you should look at it. In the bigger picture, what brand, how have you branded yourself? If you then act like Namu, we will call you Namu. Yeah, if you then act like Dambuzo, we will call you Dambuzo. But if you look at it in another way and you start doing great things, we will start calling you, oh, that young, brilliant man, oh, that young, brilliant woman. So it's about how you brand yourself.
I think I'll just come in there. I'll speak mostly about my name. My name's Ottilia, and I always wondered what it meant. It's also my grandmother's name. So back then, during colonization, she got her name Ottilia, and I always wondered what it meant. And it's actually German, and it means a female hero. That's what my name means. So I think there's somebody in the chat who said they don't believe that a name imposed on you is enough to shape your destiny. And yes, you did not give yourself that name. It was imposed on you by somebody else. So you don't have to base your life on, oh, they gave me this name. It's they gave me, but what do you think about yourself? What do you feel? How do you define yourself? There's always, we are human beings. We evolve, we change. Change is the only constant. So you have the right to shape your own destiny. You create your own path. Don't let what other people were feeling, what other people were, doing, decide your future. You can leave that in the past and you can, pave a new way for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Ottilia, and thank you, Pastor Mnashi. This discussion is at heat, and I can see my time. It seems like I'm running out of time because I have a lot of questions, But allow me to move ahead and ask the next question, and I'll take up comments in the next segment. The next question is said, how do one measure and evidence success of my values in changing the world? How do one measure and evidence success of my values in changing the world?
I think most people, when people say changing the world, a lot of us see changing the whole universe, changing, like everybody, the only impact of change that people see is like, what Elon Musk is doing, what Mark Zuckerberg is doing. But changing your world is changing your community. Picking up a piece of litter in your community, that is changing your world. So when we say changing the world, we are not saying everybody should go to Silicon Valley. African solutions for African problems. That is changing the world. Start where you are. Start in your community. Start in your home. When you wake up in the morning, greet your parents, make your bed, pick up the stuff in your house, be respectful. That's the change that starts to impact the world. So when we say when people say change the world, I always tell my kids this. I don't expect you to go to Silicon Valley. I don't expect you to be the next Elon Musk, but I expect you in your little community. Change starts there. So that's how you can measure the impact of your values in your community. Thank you.
I do agree with you, Mr. Tilia, that it's this was relates to what I was saying the last couple of weeks, that it's the small steps. We have to take very small steps, and we have to be satisfied with the small steps. We mustn't think it's too small. There's some story, I believe, of the mouse, the mouse and the elephant, and the mouse is ashamed because it's too small, but it's not too small. He's the world needs mice as much as it needs elephants, and so those small steps are really what will give you the evidence. And the first step is that really important one, because if you can do something very, very small and very positive, and you see that worked and that you got a result from that, it gives you the confidence for the second step. And if you don't get there, then you try again. It's like we were saying before, perseverance. You keep going. And the second thing is, it's not about what you do for yourself. It's about what you do for somebody else. So the evidence comes in how you have helped another person, even in the smallest possible way.
Thank you so much. Pastor, I'm not sure, do you have something to say?
No, I think what Andrew and what Miss Otile have said, spot on.
Thank you so much. So allow me again to move to also next question. It says, as technology advances, how do we avoid losing touch with our values? As technology advances, how do we avoid losing touch with our values?
Right. So maybe to bring on a little bit of flesh to this question, we are talking here about, globalization. As people are coming together, there's a lot of acculturation that is happening. There's a lot of cross-culturation that is happening. And, now on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, we now get to know real time what is happening in the US, what is happening here. So there are a lot of voices that are speaking into our lives. How do I not lose value? How do I not lose touch with the values that I'm being taught, especially on this platform, given the 3 sessions that we have heard with you, Andrew? So maybe we can start with Miss Otile and then come back to Andrew.
I think if your values are shaken by technology and everything else that's coming your way, I think you need to really go back and just figure out what really are my values, because your values should not be shaken or moved by anything, especially technology. Technology should it's a tool that we use. It shouldn't be something that's, like central to your life. Technology is a tool. It's supposed to make your life better. So if it comes and it's, you're doubting your values, I think you need to really go back and figure out, sit down with yourself, be honest with yourself. What are my values? Why are my values being shaken by something like technology? So I think that's my response to that.
Yeah, and I think that's right. And I think it's a huge question. This is such a big question for all of us, and it's being talked about in the media. It's being talked about by everybody around the world, especially at the moment more than ever. And so we'd need more than days, maybe weeks, maybe years to discuss this question, and we should continue to discuss it. But I think the most important thing is that you ask that question. Because if you're asking the question, it means that your values matter to you. And if your values matter to you and you ask that question, it means that you're probably not going to lose your values. So always ask that question and see, and also then you can step away from technology for a little bit and step out of your door into the community and find somebody who needs some help, or find something that you need to do, or plant a tree, or whatever it might be that will reconnect you with your values and with reality. Technology is wonderful, and we can't ignore it. It's here, but let's keep it in perspective.
Great. I'll just add a little bit more, like what you have mentioned, Andrew. This is a really big question. And I look at I look at it from, from different angles. Okay, let me bring this angle. We have a celebrity in this country who got popular, and I'd like to believe that at some point she made the money from exhibiting the wrong values. We also have another one. I'm not sure about your beliefs when it comes to the issues around sexual orientation, but in this country and on this platform, we are very much Christian. So we do not believe in, sex change and things like that. We do have one in Zimbabwe, left the country as a man, now in Sweden. They are making money out of that. We know quite a number of young people who have dropped out of school, dropped out of church, and they're doing whatever they are doing out there. They are making money. And the ones that have stayed in church, that have stayed in school, that have changed, that haven't changed their sexual orientation, they are struggling. They are not successful in a sense. So you look at all of these things as a young person and you ask yourself, is embracing the right values the right thing to do? Because it looks like the right guys are finishing last. Those who drop out of school, they get in the streets, they start hustling, selling drugs, selling, doing money change. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, but it's usually associated with a whole lot of things that happen in that industry. The girls that drop off from school and then they start pursuing other, ways of making money. They've become a small house. I don't know if you're familiar with what a small house is, but these are glorified prostitutes. Let me put it that way. They struggle. They make it in life. They succeed. They fly to Dubai. They do whatever they do. They come back with money. But the ones that are staying on the narrow road are the ones that are finding it difficult to put food on the table. So you get to question your values in that particular case. And technology is bringing this right to us. It's becoming media to let the young people know, I'm doing this and I'm making money, while you are staying on course and you're saying you have values. So I think this is the bigger conversation of this question.
It's a very big conversation, and I mean, I'm not going to comment on the on specifics, but I would just say that it's true that technology is showing us these examples of people. It's seducing us into thinking we can all have a lot of money and we can do this and that. But we have to remember that these are very few, these people, very few. And that actually we can't all be like that. And indeed, we don't want to be like that. And you only have to look at the negative sides of those people's lives. Yeah, they might have a lot of money, but are they happy? I don't believe so in many cases. People who become famous just because they decided to become famous, that's not a reason for being famous, in my opinion. So I have a big problem with celebrity culture. Yeah. But 99% of us are not in their world. So we just see it from the outside. And the important thing is if we remain true to our values and we say, look, we won't be seduced by that. It's not, and in any case, it's not realistic for me, but it's not right for me. But then return to the point about the small steps. And the other thing I wanted to mention, which you're familiar with, this concept of chaos theory, that the butterfly flapping its wings in Zimbabwe might cause a tornado in America or something like that. The small actions can have a big effect somewhere, somewhere and sometime, but we might not know when that is or where it is. So, but it means we shouldn't still think we give up. No, you never give up. Even your small thing will have its impact somewhere down the line. Even like we said last week, you plant the tree that you will never see as a big tree. But that's the very reason why you should plant the tree.
Yeah, thank you so much, Miss or Pastor Mnachi and Andrew, for answering this question.
Tinashe, I'm going to make a suggestion now because we have a few more questions, but we're a little bit running out of time. So if you would permit me, I would just pick look at a couple of those questions that I'll go through very quickly and say a few comments about them. Because actually, as you said that next week, your speaker is not available next week, so perhaps you would be able to take more of those questions and develop them further in your session next week, because there's such good questions and so valuable. And actually, I wish I could join you next week, but unfortunately, I have something else on next Saturday. But if I just go, I'd just like to make a quick couple of comments on a couple of the questions, because they are all really interesting and good questions. The question saying our efforts are not recognized and this is killing us. So young people, what can we do to keep on to learn and change the world? Again, the same answer as before. The small steps, the small things.
Yeah.
Find that one thing. There's a question about, can we trust the way that our brains perceive the world? That is such a huge question. I can't even begin to start to answer that, to talk about it now. It's, you need to read that book that I mentioned about find out more about the left side and the right side. The same with the next question: what makes one side of the brain more developed and more functional than the other? These are questions about neuroscience and philosophy. Steps that can be taken to test your leadership attributes. Again, it's the small things. Take the smallest first step, and that will be your test. Your test is in listening. Your test is in all of the values which we've talked about and which we've explored so far. And the final question, I love this last question that we have here. Somebody's asked, do you think there's something wrong with me? I am very comfortable with anyone around me leading me, and then I simply follow. I love this question because this shows you're a human being. This is what we're all like this. 99.9% of us are like this. There are not many people that actually feel they must lead, and we shouldn't feel that we must lead. It's about being with other people. It's about working together. Even if you're following, in fact, the people who are following may see the way better than the people who are leading, because it's only if you're following that you can actually see if somebody's going the wrong way. The person in the front can't see whether it's the right way or the wrong way. So these are wonderful questions, and so my answer to the last one is just don't be ashamed if you are somebody who is more naturally following. It doesn't mean you don't have something really, really important to do, and in fact, you are every bit as important and every bit as necessary to creating change as people who really want to stand out in the front. And as we said before, leadership involves other people. Leadership is not just about the leader. I would like to just finish with a few other thoughts and go back to those challenges that I offered you at the beginning, and see if hopefully you've had a look at those challenges. Let me just get rid of these things so I can see. So now the dots. I wonder how many people managed to find the way, because this is one of those things, and this illustrates leadership as well. Some of you, I'm sure, know this puzzle, and some of you will have solved it immediately. But for those who are maybe struggling or maybe can't understand it, let's suppose as you did this, you drew 4 lines and then, oh, you lost one. How do you get to that one? Or maybe you tried it this way. 3, 4. Oh no, you lost one. And this is typical. And you think this is impossible. How can you do it? There's no way with the 4 lines. So let's suppose that we start here. Who told you to stop there? When you see those dots, you think it's a box.
Yeah.
But nobody told you that you have to stop at the corner. So what happens if you don't stop? And then you see you can draw the line somewhere else. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. And you will have heard the phrase so many times, thinking out of the box, thinking outside the box. All of these management people like to talk about that. This is what it means. Thinking, this is literally thinking outside the box, trying to go beyond, trying to not say we must stop here, but no, we go on a little bit and we'll see something different. Here's my A to Z. And some of you will have had similar things and some of you will have different things on your list. Authenticity we've talked about, and Miss O mentioned that word just now. Belief, very important, to believe in what you're doing and to believe in yourself and to believe in other people and to believe in the things that you believe in. The 4 C's, as we mentioned, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and curiosity. And then, as was mentioned by Tulo earlier on, commitment, a very good 5th one. D, diversity. We need those different people around us, people who think differently and who have different skills. Equity, not just equality, but equity. How do we give people the equal opportunity that we desire? Because you've probably seen the famous picture of people standing by a wall, looking over the wall. And one of the people is very small, so you give them the opportunity, the equality of opportunity to look over the wall, but they're not big enough to look over the wall. So equity means you have to give them something to stand on so that they can reach the same height as the others. Fun and friends. Fun is massively important in everything. I usually say if something is not fun, then it's not worth doing. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, how can it be good? Generosity is my G. I think we should be generous to other people, not just in money, in terms of money or gifts or this side of thing, but the way we think about other people. We should be open. We should be generous to their way of thinking. We should not just impose our own ways. Hope. Without hope, we are nothing. Integrity, we mentioned quite a lot, and justice is my J. Kindness, it goes with generosity, being kind to other people, no matter who they are, no matter what we might think about them. And L is loyalty and listening. Loyalty is one of those words we don't hear enough these days. M, memory, remember. Remember who you are and where you came from. Remember the things from the past. That shapes your future. Names, of course, is my N, and you know why. Observation, look around you. It's linked to listening, of course, and linked to curiosity. Perseverance, we talked about that today. Keeping going, you must keep going. Don't give up. Questioning, of course, asking yourselves and other people, why? Why do I think that? Why do you think that? Always keep on asking the questions. And respect, you must, if you want to be respected, you must respect other people. S, for me, we talked about it last week, the smile. It solves so many problems. T, time travel. I mentioned it enough. U, unexpected, being open to this unexpected things. There was a word, serendipity, I nearly put as my S, the gift of finding good things that you are not looking for. V is all the values. And W, wonder, looking up at the night sky. We talked about that last week. Excellence is my X. Always striving to be the best and to do the best. Have high standards in everything that you do. Why is yes? Saying yes to things, not being one of those people who always say, it's too difficult. No, we can't do that. No, I can't. No, I don't. No, just say yes and then find out how. And my Z is Zimbabwe today, because I was there recently. I found it a country which taught me so much. I want to come back, and because our hosts, the Higher Life Foundation, are from originally Zimbabwe, and I want to say a big thank you to them. Finally, I mentioned one person that I admired about education, Ken Robinson, last week. Here's another person. I'm not really a kind of person that has heroes, but if I have a hero, it's probably this man. And if you don't know Carl Sagan, and he sadly died many years ago now, probably 25 years ago or so. He's an astronomer. He was an astronomer, an astrophysicist, a scientist, a great communicator, and an amazing human being. And if you can find out anything, see his videos about him on YouTube, find his books, I cannot recommend it highly enough, because he talks about space science, but he talks about so much more. And he was one of the main scientists behind the Voyager space program, which in the end of the 1970s sent out 2 spacecraft out into the far, far distant parts of the solar system, billions of miles away, billions, not millions, billions of miles away. And they're still there, they're still traveling out now. And after they'd been past Mars and Jupiter and Saturn and all of the planets, Carl Sagan did something which the rest of the scientists said, why are you doing that? What's the point? What's the point of doing this? And he took the step of saying, we must turn the spacecraft around to face the other way, not just to be looking outward, but to be looking backward before it finishes up, before we end up not being able to communicate with it. And so they agreed with him finally, and they turned it around. And it took what for me is probably the most important photograph that has ever been taken. This is a photograph. It's called the pale blue dot. And that photograph is taken from perhaps 2 billion miles away, far out in space, in the dark, deep places where there's nobody and no life and nothing. And what is that dot? That dot is us. It's the Earth. It's the furthest picture of the Earth taken ever, from so far away. And that dot is all of us, you and me, and all of our families, and all of our countries, and all of the people who ever lived, and all of the history, and all of the culture, and all of the religions, and everything, everything, everything that there has ever been. And that is a miraculous photograph. And it shows to me that Carl Sagan, he wasn't a space scientist who looked outwards. He realized that the whole point of going into space is that we can look backwards and look at ourselves and see why we are important and why we have to protect. It shows us that we're very small and we're alone and fragile. And it might make us think that, what's the point? What's the point of anything? But it shows us our world is an unimaginably precious jewel. It's a magnificent treasure. We are responsible for looking after it. And everything that you and I and we do every single day is important. And so finally, there's the song. Some of you will know the band Fleetwood Mac, a very famous band from the 70s, 80s. That famous song of theirs, don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop, it'll soon be here. It'll be better than before. Yesterday's gone. Why not think about times to come? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew, and thank you to Pastor Manasseh and Ms. O for allowing yourself to be one of our panelists today. Ms. Andrew, we are so grateful for the kind of information that you have shared with us, and especially your A to Z is the takeaway point. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's going to copy that A to Z list, but all of us, we are going to copy that that list. And also, once again, thank you so much for availing yourself to come to Young and Dynamic. Looking forward to hear again from you as soon as you are available. And to Dynamite, thank you again for being with Mr. Andrew for the past 4 weeks as he was sharing lifetime changing information. So thank you so much again for the questions that you have asked to Mr. Andrew. So remember to like, comment, and share Young and Dynamic posts on Facebook and also on Society Channel. And remember, the Global Intercessor platform is open 24/7. So remember to connect anytime and pray for yourself. If you need a slot, reach out to Lisa or any other Global Intercessors members. And also, Young and Dynamic continues next week. I see you the same time, same place. Bye for now.